Hello once again from Prison Island, Britain. It's a bit chilly today, and wearing the right clothes you're okay. And I've been accustomed to my beanie hat. And I even had a compliment from Benny at Crossroads Motel. And you'll only get that joke if you're a Brit and you're over 50. Now, it's becoming very apparent that many are predicting a harsh winter this year. And the EU is actually doing backflips because they assume it's because of net zero and the plummeting carbon levels. It isn't. The plummeting carbon levels are because there's no bloody industry in Europe anymore. And it's blatantly obvious to anyone with a brain that the real reason is because the EU powerhouse of industry all over Europe has stopped working because of self-inflicted wounds caused by extremely bad management and a suicide mission of hate for a country that provided all of its resources. And now they're importing liquid gas from America at 5 times the price. Hence, no industry and no emissions. Pretty obvious. And consequently, it's going to be a hard winter in Europe. And if this fascist regime is still in place, it will happen again and again. Now, it's very interesting to note that many well-established bloggers on this platform, and I include people who have millions of viewers and are very, very popular, they are now asking everyone to subscribe and like. And I can only guess that the practice of shadow banning is getting more widespread. And it's becoming more widespread possibly because of Palantir. So please like and subscribe. It really does help the algorithm to combat blatant censorship. Now, I watched an interesting video last night called Broken by a guy called Jake Bugg. Now, I'm not sure if Jake Bugg is his real name, but perhaps it's his stage name, I don't know. But it reminded me of a similar video by Ren called Vincent's Tale, and the social problems with alcohol and the vast consequences that are ignored by most everyone, including our government, who have a heavily subsidised bar in Westminster, paid for by the taxpayer. And if only these politicians were randomly tested for alcohol and drugs in the workplace, just as ordinary citizens are on a regular basis, zero stimulants might be a far better idea than zero carbon. Because as we know, or we should know, that there have been traces of cocaine found all over Westminster, especially in the toilets. And don't get me wrong, as a man who appreciated a drink after a hard day's work, the pub was always a place to unwind. A simple refuge where I could mix with others, relax a while, and share the stories of our day. And for most of us, it was never about lingering long, just a quick stop at the local watering hole on the way home. And yet there were always those who stayed late, chasing the full effect of alcohol, technically known as getting rat-arsed. The broken ones, men and women with or without a partner, with or without a family waiting for them at home. Once the drink found its mark, it doesn't matter, the hub of the pub formed its warm, malevolent embrace. How many of those lost souls stayed long into the night? More than a few, I'm sure. And the pub is a tiny world into itself, a mirror reflecting the many faces of society. It holds the quiet, unassuming ones who sit in the corner, who blend into the background, the loud and brash characters who fill the room with noise and shouting, the jokers who mask their pain with laughter, and the scroungers always looking for a free drink. Seen it all. Here you'll find the aggressive ones and the Mr. Nice Guys, whose true edge only surfaces after a long session of drinking. The show-offs, who must always be right, occupy their stage with relentless pride. It seems the pub is humanity's beating heart, where mixers are not just drinks but tiny shots of shared experience, escape and sometimes despair. And among the regular faces are the broken ones. You know who they are. You know them. Those who nurse their glass quietly, trying to hide the sadness in their eyes, through, with every drink, their mask slips a little more. And some shed silent tears. Others boil with anger, and some let their frustrations explode into fights. Like I say, I've seen it all. And the real biggest tragedy of all is that for every broken soul drowning their sorrows in the pub dim light, there are millions more doing exactly the same thing at home, with cheap supermarket booze hidden away, sad and lonely, seeking the answer at the bottom of a glass of cheap wine or sherry, chasing the elusive unicorn that doesn't exist. And all this is compounded by 1,000 times by our failing society that sees foreign invaders treated far better than the people who were actually born here. Consequently, the tax burden has become a monster, depriving us of a decent standard of living, but never mind, there's plenty of cheap alcohol available at the supermarket to drown our sorrows. And how much tax do we pay? I'll deal with that in my next monologue, and I can assure you, you will be astonished at how much tax we actually pay. So thanks for listening to a man in a beanie hat in his shed. Bye-bye.